Chairman.
Are we ready?
Yep.
All right. Good afternoon, everybody. This is the 1 o'clock meeting of the Kentucky State Board of Elections on Election Day. And I will now call the meeting to order. It looks like we have a full complement of board members, but I will have everybody introduce themselves, and I will start from the left-hand corner of my screen with you, Lynn Lane.
Good afternoon. This is Lynn Lane, member, retired clerk from Ballard County.
And James Lewis.
James Lewis, member, retired clerk from Leslie County.
George Russell.
George Russell, Franklin County.
Dwight Sears. You're on mute, Dwight.
Yes. Hi, Dwight Sears, member, Pulaski County.
And Deanna Brangers.
Anna Brangers, member, Jefferson County.
Sherry Whitehouse.
Sherry Whitehouse, member, Bullitt County.
Corey Skolnick.
Corey Skolnick, member, Jefferson County.
We've got our Secretary of State, Michael. Hello.
Good afternoon. Michael Adams, Secretary of State, non-voting member.
We've also got staff with us, Jared Deering, the Executive Director, Karen Sellers, the Deputy Executive Director, Taylor Brown, our Legal Counsel, and Sheila Walker, Clerk of the Board. And I'm Ben Chandler. I'm presently chairing the board. We have again, a full complement, and we'll get right into the agenda. We've got apparently we've got to approve the minutes, read and approve the minutes of October 20th, 2020. And I will read those if you'd like me to, but I'd just soon accept a motion to approve. Can I get
That motion, Ben?
A motion by Lynn Lane to approve the minutes. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Deanna Brangers. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Very good. The minutes are approved. Next item is the approval or ratification of County Board of Elections replacements pursuant to KRS 117.035. We have one apparently in Greene County, and we may have some others that have come in since then, some emergency changes that we'll need to undertake. Jared, you want to tell us what we've got?
Yes. So we are having you ratify Greene County. They have a Republican board member that they're replacing. By historical context, we'll take the name from the top of the list, which is Dean Blair.
All right. Do I have a motion to approve the change in Greene County?
So moved.
Was that you, James?
Yes.
Okay, James made the motion. James Lewis made the motion, and was Sherry Whitehouse, I believe, seconded.
I can second it. It was Deanna, but I can
Oh,
second.
okay. Well, I'm having a hard time keeping it all straight. I'm doing the best I can. Well, I'll let you do it then, Sherry. Do we have? Will everybody who is in favor of this please vote aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All right, we have the Greene County situation taken care of. Jared, do we have any other county items that we need to deal with? You're on mute, I believe, sir.
My apologies. Sheila, will you unmute for a second? Sheila, can you read off the two counties that we had that just came in for ratification? Technical difficulty with Sheila. All right. We ratified. Sheila, are you on mute? Can you unmute? Sorry, give me 1 second. I'll find these. Karen, can you do me a favor and go back to Sheila and grab those 2 papers? My apologies. Same thing as this morning. We just got them in. So Sheila's going to go, or Karen will grab them and make sure we can get them done for you today. If you would like to move on to the next thing.
Well, I'm hoping that's the only problem we're going to have with the election today.
I think so. Here we go. Perfect. Okay. They've been emailed to you, so we can move them. Leslie County is asking for additional precincts. These have been approved by staff and looking for ratification from the board. They are three precincts, B101, C101, D101, and Onzi sent these in just earlier today.
I don't know if we can do this in Leslie County.
What do you think, James?
May be offended if we mess around with Leslie County. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Very appropriately moved by James Lewis. Do we have a second?
Yes.
Second by George Russell. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Very good. Moving on, Jared.
The next one is Butler County Emergency Precinct Request as a Republican serving as a Democrat. They are highly mismatched in their voter registration. However, she did have several Democrats that had agreed to work for her, but several had to drop out due to medical problems. So she's asking for an emergency in 1 precinct.
All right. Well, I guess we just need to get more Democrats in Butler County, don't we? All right. Anybody, can I get a motion in favor of to approve this move in in Butler County? George Russell, you moved to approve it. Do I have a second?
I second it.
Second by Lynn Lane. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Or anybody opposed? All right. Very good. Is that it, Jared?
No, we also have an amendment to Clay County. This morning, we had you approve several. They had to amend one from an independent to a Republican. So that'll also be a ratification for Clay County.
So not only do we not have enough Democrats in Clay County, we also don't even have enough independents.
Is this Clay or Fayette County?
Clay County.
Clay County. And then one more after this.
All right. Do we have a motion to approve the second move in Clay County?
So moved.
A motion by James Lewis. Do we have a second?
Second.
Was that you, Deanna?
Yes.
Okay. Second by Deanna Brangers. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Approved. Next, please, sir.
The last one is an emergency precinct officer request back for Leslie County precincts B101 and B103. They are R's serving as D's. Clerk Sizemore says that he's tried to reach out to multiple individuals and ultimately he needs these 2 extras to serve. He will have Democrats serving in those locations, however, though.
Now, James, is there anything you want to say about this? There's a lot of activity in Leslie County.
A lot of activity, but it's not an uncommon problem with the election officer situation in a lot of counties along these lines because of registration differences in each county. But I'll make a motion to approve that.
I'll second it, James.
Motion by James Lewis, second by Lynn Lane. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Very good. That passes. Is that it for those items, Jared?
It is, yes.
Okay, very good. Moving on, we have a request for voter registration data. This is from Bonnie Brunet or Brunette from the Foundation for Social Responsibility. Can you tell us about this, please, sir?
Yes. So staff originally brought this to you in the last board meeting. We asked for some more time to do some research on the organization itself to determine whether or not there was a valid request here. We're trying to be extremely strict with the data that we release and to whom we release it to. After research by General Counsel Brown and myself, we can't really determine how this organization has any direct ties to elections. And at this point in time, until they give us more information, I'm uncomfortable giving it to them unless the board would like to overrule that and tell me to give it to them. But at this time, my recommendation to the board would be not to approve this. And again, we'll have Taylor work with them. If they want to provide us more information, that's up to them. But if the board wants me to do it, obviously we serve at the pleasure of the board.
Does anybody have any questions about this? Anybody want to take issue with Jared's recommendation?
I think that's where we were this last meeting. We were just going to leave it up to Jared to do the due diligence and kind of trust his judgment there. So if that's the opinion, I support it.
Anybody feel differently? All right, then we'll just move on. Jared.
Okay.
Next item on the agenda, Mr. Secretary, we get to hear from you. You want to give us all the good news about your great work and what's going on across the Commonwealth.
Well, I'm not going to do that at 1:14. I'm going to wait till after 6. I don't want to jinx it. But I'll tell you what I've been up to this morning. I've been traveling around and I visited Ballard High School in Jefferson County. That's actually literally across the street from my subdivision. I could walk over there. Wanted to check that out, and the voting there has gone very smoothly. What I've seen elsewhere in Jefferson is similar, very short lines, if any lines at all. Then I went to Fayette County. I went to Dunbar Community Center. No lines at all. Plenty of parking spots. I actually use that occasion for a media event to try to encourage Fayette County voters, if they can, to not overutilize the libraries. The libraries have been the most popular sites actually throughout all of early voting, and they are today as well. And there's no line at Dunbar. So I've tried to encourage that turnout spread out among the other locations. I went over to Tate's Creek. From what I can tell, at least so far, the longest lines of the day in the state appear to be at Tate's Creek Library. But even then, it's only about an hour wait. I don't mean to minimize anyone's inconvenience. It's about an hour wait there. The poll workers are going out every few minutes to encourage voters to go to a different site if they're able. But I talked with the voters in line, including the ones at the back of the line, and they're actually in a pretty good mood. They're happy to wait an hour if it takes that. The poll workers are in a great mood. The voters are too. Everyone seems to be pretty satisfied with this election so far.
Well, that's a great report. And it seems to me that if the worst that we've got is a 1 hour wait, that certainly beats what we're hearing in a lot of other places throughout the country. Yeah,
I told the press today, if you're grading Kentucky, I'd give us an A so far. If you're grading us on a curve, I'd give us an A+. A lot of states are having tough days today.
Yeah, well, it's a testament to
Mr. Chairman?
A lot of good work. George?
Yes, I'd like to compliment the secretary on all the positive comments he's made in the last 3 and 4 weeks. It's been very, very positive.
Well, thank you, George. I would like to second that. I just think it's, as far as I'm concerned, Mr. Secretary, you've done a wonderful job getting out in front in this election and cooperating from the beginning to really get a not only a good turnout, but a safe turnout and a secure turnout. And it's like you say, the proof's in the pudding. And if we can get through the next 6 hours or so, we're going to have one of the best elections we've ever had under very, very difficult circumstances. And it's a real tribute to your work, to the county clerk's work, and a whole lot of other folks. It's just tremendous.
Thank you so much.
Well done. And I think you also made some comments in the last few days about possibly moving forward with a similar program or somewhat similar in the future. And I, for one, thoroughly applaud that. It's hard to argue with success.
Yeah, I've been pleasantly surprised at how much we threw some curveballs at the voters in June and in November, asking them to change their usual pattern of voting, and that was a big ask. There was a poll a couple of months ago, how do you intend to vote? 56% of voters in our state said they're going to vote in person on one day, today. Obviously, we're seeing from the numbers that didn't happen. the voters were really receptive to information we gave them about absentee options and early voting options, and they took advantage of it. And they really are to be applauded for saving us from potentially a bad outcome today with overcrowded sites. And so we have to give the public a lot of kudos as well.
Yeah, very good. Anything else you'd like to report to the board?
I just want to say thank you to the board for working in a bipartisan fashion. I think the one thing, look, not to minimize the amazing engineering work that's taken place by Jared and the staff and the clerks. It's really a marvel watching how efficient these voting locations are being operated, how quickly the short lines are moving. But I think if there's one thing that's really separated us from the rest of the country this year, it's been that we've been bipartisan and we've depoliticized election administration. You haven't seen the types of fights over drop boxes and such in Kentucky that you've seen in, say, Texas and California. And I think those states are going to have a rougher day, and I think they're going to have a lot more litigation afterward than what we're going to have, just because we depoliticized this from the get-go, and that's given all the voters of all their beliefs across the spectrum confidence in our system.
Hear, hear. Couldn't agree more. And unfortunately, we're not going to get as much publicity as we deserve, I'm afraid, because good news doesn't get the publicity that bad news does. And we have good news here in Kentucky, thanks to your leadership, the leadership of the governor and the members of the board here and our county clerks. And as you say, the public themselves, everybody who's been involved has just been incredible. And it's just wonderful to see. If that's all you've got, I thank you for that, Mr. Secretary, and I will turn it over to the Executive Director, Jared Deering, for any comments that he might have.
Thank you, Chairman. I know this is probably, for those watching, probably not fun, but like the big thank you parade, but I'd be remiss if I didn't as well during the full board meeting. First of all, I'd like to thank my staff. They have done an incredible job. I mentioned it earlier, but we have multiple staff that are working 70-hour weeks the last several weeks, families that have kind of been set aside to concentrate on work, and they've really kind of grinded to the nub on this thing. And I really, really appreciate the work that they've done under very difficult circumstances. Obviously, the county clerks, the 120 county clerks and their staff have been an amazing, working through incredibly difficult circumstances. Multiple offices have had COVID in their offices. Those offices were able to pivot on their coup plans and get themselves back up and running, so there were not interruptions in voting for the electorate. I think that was an amazing part of this story that really hasn't been told yet, that the number of counties that were affected by COVID in the actual clerk's offices, but still maintained the ability to have early voting and a continuity in voting is a tremendous story that I can't undersell. And then, of course, I'd like to thank the Secretary and the Governor for their statesmanship during this process and kind of help guide us through this process as well. So thank you to you, and obviously to the board. I know the Secretary said it, and I echo those sentiments to you as well. If I could, just to give you kind of a quick update on kind of where we're at with some of the numbers. As of about 10 minutes ago, we have had 603,396 absentee ballots have been returned back to the county clerk's office. So if you'll remember, and for those of you who weren't there this morning, my estimation is that we'll receive back by Friday somewhere in the neighborhood of 625,000 ballots returned total. That'll be somewhere in the neighborhood of 95 to 93% of all absentee ballots returned. That'll put us in a very good place at the higher range of national average for absentee ballots returned. So again, that number should still continue to tick up over the course of the day. Potentially even getting as high as, maybe 610. I kind of doubt it. My guess is most of the clerks are kind of winding down that process now to concentrate on closing out the election day. But even if that is the case, we're now looking at between 15 and 20,000 ballots all told being outstanding for the entire election at the close of polls. And that means when we have our election night returns tonight, we're going to be looking at above 98% of all of our returns. and Kentucky will be able to report for the most part almost every single one of its elections tonight, unless they are exceedingly close. So that being said, as of 1 p.m., we have had 257,566 voters vote in person on election day. And I will say that that number is probably about 5 to 10% low. Some of our counties, especially in the eastern part of the counties or the very rural parts of our state, don't always have connectivity. So even those e-poll books are working and functioning appropriately, they're not giving us the data feed up. So we'll have those completed and turned back in tonight. So we'll have a more complete number when the counties return. That being said, I know my estimate that I gave the board was 2.2 million votes that we would have in total by the end of the day. Originally, I think earlier this week, I sent you an approximation of projections, which was actually 11% above 2016 numbers. 2016, we had 1,955,000 total votes. So I'm actually now going to go back to my 11% refinement of that. So I think that 11% comes out to 2,170,000 votes. If we keep and continue at this pace, I think we're going to come pretty close to that number.
How many in-person votes did we have? You didn't give us that number again.
In person.
I mean early. I'm sorry, early in person.
Oh, early in person, we've had 1,025,000. And as of 1 p.m., we're at 257,566. And again, that number is short by maybe about 5%, maybe 10% at very most.
So we're at almost 1.9 million right now.
Yeah. And that, again, 2016 is the high water mark for elections, for turnout for us at 1,955,000. So we're definitely going to eclipse that.
And so that beat 2008?
2008, I believe, was 1.8 million, 1.86 million. Hang on one second, I can double check that.
The primary turnout that year was extremely high because the primary was still ongoing between Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton. The general election turnout was really more traditional. I think it was in the high 50s, wasn't it, Jared?
Yeah, it was. 08 was 1,861,000 votes.
So 16 didn't eclipse 08 by a whole lot. And it doesn't look like we're going to eclipse 16 by a giant margin, maybe 100,000.
In 08, I believe the number was roughly 62,000 or 62% of total turnout. In 16, I think it was in the high 50s. We should probably hit the 60%, 61, maybe even 62%. But again, in 08, our voter rolls were a little cleaner. And so I think that, if our rolls were a little cleaner, I think our turnout would be reflective of that number.
Yeah. Anybody have any questions about any of that? Want to ask Jared anything further? All right. Looking at the agenda, the only items really we've got other business. Does anybody have any other business that they want to bring before the board today?
Is there a date been set for certification?
Well, that's the one other thing that we've got to do, George. And since you've brought it up, we might as well go on and do that. That I assume will be our next formal meeting, would be a date to certify the results. Jared, do you have a date in mind?
Sheila, I think we had talked about the 20th. Is that correct?
Yeah, like so.
Is that soon enough?
I think, well, the question, and I would defer back to the secretary, one of the things we would have to need probably to understand is whether or not we're going to have a recanvass or a recount. what the odds of that being, I'm not sure, but I think at the very minimum, I think it would be, as long as it fits everyone's schedule, we could probably set that date as a tentative date. And if things change on the ground, we can always readdress it at that point.
The 20th is a Friday. Is that all right with everybody?
I think I had previously let everybody know I will be out of town that day, but I had said I could go by the office and sign the certifications prior to leaving town.
I think are we going to try to have that meeting in person?
No, I'll need each of the board members to come in and give me their wet signature on these. However, I don't need you to all come in at the exact same time. We can still continue to do remotely. I think it's appropriate, considering we're in the middle of a spike right now. The last thing I want is putting you guys in a position to come in contact with each other across the entire state. That's just not a good position to be in right now.
All right, so the formal meeting to certify the votes will be on November 20th at 10 a.m. unless we notify you otherwise, unless there's some reason why that needs to be changed.
And if that is the case, we'll definitely give a lot of public notice of that, just to make sure that the public is fully aware when we plan to certify this election.
All right. Sounds good. Is there anything else that we need to take up at this meeting?
If I could just add one last thing, I think it's important for anyone that is watching or for the media that's reporting this, that, while we in Kentucky are in a position to be able to report most of our elections tonight, again, what we report will be unofficial. It's always unofficial. Every election that we've had on election night, when we release results, those are unofficial results, and the media prognosticates and ultimately will project winners based on those numbers. The counties come together a week later to certify their results, and then they send that back to the secretary, and then the secretary presents that to us for the final board to certify as whole. Kentucky has been lucky in that we were able to change some of our laws, and in other states they didn't have those mechanisms. So I would say that just to have everyone understand that even though election night reporting comes in from the media, I think it's important for people to understand that every single state in the nation does not certify their results on election night. Every state in the country will continue to count their election results after election day eclipses to make sure that the vote total is correct and counts. Some states will be able to report quickly. Others might take a little more time. And I think it's just important for people to have a little patience with their elections administrators as they effectively do that.
Hey, can I make a quick point?
Excuse me. Go ahead, Mr. Secretary.
Just to follow Jared's point, something that I hear a lot when I go around the state is people are concerned that our votes are counted via a website that has some sort of nexus to a foreign country. I just want to assure everyone who's watching that literally the way that we get these vote totals and we process them and count them and certify them, it's very old fashioned, but literally the county boards of elections fax in on forms, fax in their totals to the Secretary of State's office. And then we review those. Obviously, we also look at the count through the website, but we rely primarily on those submissions by the county boards of elections on paper via fax to our office. We work with those county boards of elections to make sure those numbers are right. And those are the numbers that are certified. So what you see on the internet, that's certainly probably accurate. But if it's not accurate, that inaccuracy won't follow through to our certification. We will only certify results that actually go through the formal process of coming from the county boards of elections to our office and then to the Board of Elections, State Board of Elections.
And we've got 120 counties. So we get 120 separate sets of results. And those results are not tied to each other in any way.
That's right.
And the system itself, so no election a system that is tabulating votes or counting votes is connected to the internet in Kentucky. I think that's also another important thing to notate. While these election results are online for convenience of the voter and the press to be able to look at, they are, again, if you look at the top of the page, very clearly stated unofficial results. So I think it's just important for people to have an understanding of what they're actually looking at, and when the press does release this, that, even tonight, tomorrow, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, we'll still be counting some of the remaining absentee ballots that will be coming in. Very few. We'll also be counting in military and overseas ballots that are still coming in.
So the bottom line is, if anybody's trying to mess with our election through the internet, they can forget about it, because it's not possible.
Mr. Chairman.
That's an important thing for people to know. And Jared, the other item is, it just, when you were talking about the results being unofficial, it's also important, I think, to again stress that not all of the votes will be counted tonight, almost all of them, but there will definitely be some outstanding votes tonight, because we're accepting absentee ballots that are postmarked on election day if they come within the next 3 days after. Is that correct?
Correct. As long as they arrive at the county clerk ballot now that has not cast that yet, our recommendation is that you bring it to a county drop box and deliver it by 6 p.m. If it's in a county drop box by 6 p.m., it will be counted and tabulated along with everything else. But just because of the closeness of the process at this point, we are recommending that people use the drop box. I think Member Russell had a question, Chairman.
Yes, Member Russell.
Yes, the larger counties, Fayette, Jefferson, Kenton, etc., they've got such a volume to process and count. Will we see their figures tonight?
We will see, I believe we'll see most of them. I might defer, obviously, Member Bringers does not speak on behalf of Jefferson County, but she's been, very helpful in helping them out during the week and being there, watching their process and volunteering. So I might have her speak on that a little bit, but for the other larger counties, I can say that while they are larger, the scale is larger. They also have more resources and more staff. I know Clerk Bevins has set up a very efficient processing center where he's got dozens of people that are there, just as Jefferson does, but I'll defer to Member Bringers.
Okay, what was the question exactly? I'm sorry, my phone was ringing. I was trying to shut it off, and so I didn't hear everything exactly.
My question was, the larger counties have a tremendous volume of ballots to process. Tonight at 7 o'clock or 6 o'clock or whenever the report starts occurring, will we see most of the ballots, or what is the process of the larger counties was my question.
I think Jefferson's going to have a significant chunk of the ballots in. I mean, as you said, it's a much bigger process here, with 174,000 requests. They've been working 12-hour days to get it processed. I was hoping they'd be close to 90% of it in. I don't think we're going to hit that mark. But it's definitely, I think, going to be over 80% of the absentees in. We're pretty close to that mark now. So I think it's going to be a significant chunk. There's still going to be some outstanding. Of course, the problem we don't know is we know what's still outstanding. We don't know what's still going to come in. In the primary, we had roughly 20,000 ballots that were never even returned to us. So we don't know, how many are still going to come in. And we just have to wait to see, through Friday to see what else we get. But they're staying on top of it. As soon as we get the mail every day, they go straight to checking the signatures and scanning, because they want people to be able to know, their ballot has been received here. I mean, that's kind of top priority, is making sure that gets scanned in, so that if people go on to Go Vote Kentucky, they can see that their ballot is here. And then it goes into the process. So they're staying on top of it. I mean, we've been working really long days, still got several more long days in front of us, but I do believe it's going to be a significant chunk where people probably won't be, it may make a difference in some of these, if you've got house races that are closer, those probably aren't going to be able to be called, would be my guess. depending upon where those ballots are still outstanding from. But I think they're going to have a significant chunk.
I think, George, I talked to Clerk Holsclaw has, a very dedicated staff, very good deputies and really good directors. I talked to Mary Ellen Allen, who is one of those directors. She said, mirroring what Member Branger said, is that, they're working very diligently. Their plan is to continue to process through until that last minute when they're going to close down all their systems and do their totals. But they think they can get through the vast majority of this afternoon.
Well, the reason for my question,
every day over the counts.
the reason for my question, when the numbers start to change after tonight, I just wanted the public and the press to understand why.
Again, I think, we're currently at 603,000 returned absentee ballots. Now, that does not mean necessarily they've been counted. That means they've been processed back in. So the voter is aware that they've been received back at the county clerk's office. But I think we should probably only see about another 20,000 ballots come in. So over the vast percentage of what we have for vote totals to return tonight, Member Russell, I think that the good number will be there, a large enough number for the voters and the prognosticators to be able to kind of take a look at. I would also suggest too that if the size and the amount of absentee ballots that we have returned is a large enough end size so that someone could take a look at that and say, if we expect another 20,000 ballots to come back in, and the first 600,000 were X percentage to this candidate and X percentage to that candidate, they would be able to extrapolate up with that small amount to determine what that would more than likely look at to make projections.
Thank you.
So as I understand it, all votes cast today in person will be tabulated and reported tonight.
Correct.
And all votes cast early in person will be counted and tabulated and reported tonight.
Correct.
So the only group of votes that might not be tabulated are a handful of the absentee ballot votes
that should come in between Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And then on Friday, the counties will upload a second round of results. Again, those will also be unofficial, but they will just be an update of where we were at that moment in time on Friday. That will be the bulk of them. What will be remaining after that point is the very few ballots that will need to be cured. If there are signature mismatches, they have until Monday to be able to do that. And then Tuesday, they'll certify off of the total numbers. All votes, and cures will be totaled, tabulated, counted, and processed by next Tuesday. And those will be certified at that point.
And it might also be good to mention that another point of success in this particular election is that it's looking as though our spoiled ballots are going to be very, very low.
That's correct. As of this morning, I mean, I can give you some rough numbers off the top of my head, but as of this morning, it was roughly 3,000 ballots out of, again, almost 600,000 have been returned. Only 3,000 had been invalidated. That would put Kentucky at one of the lowest invalidation rates in the nation. And even of those 3,000, almost 1,100 have been cured by the voters, where the voter was notified by the State Board of Elections or the county clerk and given the opportunity to provide either an ID or a signature that would match that signature on record, verifying that security mechanism, but also voters who had ballot irregularities who then cast their ballot in person. Those voters constitute roughly 1,100. So I would expect that number to continue to climb today for in-person and then over the next several days for the signature cures. But right now we're on target to be leading the nation in fewest ballots that have been invalidated because the voter made a mistake that we couldn't ultimately contact them about and have them rectify appropriately.
It's wonderful.
Do you consider midnight tonight is the last time for counties to update their votes?
I can't guarantee it's midnight. There have been times when we've had to chase some counties down just to make sure that they get those in. The staff will continue to work with the counties to make sure that as they close polls, They'll work with us. We've asked the counties to provide us, by federal law, they need to give us their reporting totals on provisional ballots that have been requested. They also have to provide us their ENR results to upload to the portal. Once they do that, we make contact with them, let them know that we have both of those things, and that they can go hopefully home and have a good rest until tomorrow, and then we'll start over a little bit again.
Anybody else have anything they'd like to discuss? All right, I guess we all will stay on standby until the polls close at 6 p.m. Eastern and then 6 p.m. Central, 7 p.m. Eastern in the western part of the state. I guess you'll let us know, Jared, if we need to go back into session at some point during the afternoon.
Yes, I'll give you a call, let you know, and then we'll post live on YouTube again as we've done this morning and then today. But knock on wood, in case nothing goes wrong, we'll gavel back in at the close of polls and conclude today's meeting.
Very good. In the meantime, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion by member Lewis. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by member Lane. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Very good. We will see you later.
Thanks, everyone. Appreciate it.
Bye-bye.